The global political landscape changes every single day. Sometimes we hear about wars, sometimes we see heartbreaking humanitarian stories, and sometimes a statement by a world leader becomes the biggest headline. Today's story is one of those moments. It is about the Global Sumud Flotilla, a humanitarian aid convoy that was carrying food, medicine, and essential supplies for the people of Gaza. This convoy was stopped by Israel before it could reach its destination. And this is where North Korea's supreme leader Kim Jong Un stepped in with a very strong statement. He said, "This is an insult to humanity." These aid ships were not about politics. They were about human lives. Stopping them is a violation of human dignity. If the world stays silent today, then tomorrow humanity itself may not survive. These words immediately sparked global debate. But what is the full story? What happened to the flotilla? And why has Kim Jong Un's statement shaken international discussions? Let's break it down. First, let's understand what the Global Sumud Flotilla actually is. It is an international humanitarian initiative. Different NGOs, volunteers, and aid organizations come together to send food, medical supplies, and basic necessities to people living in conflict zones. This time, the convoy was heading toward Gaza. Reports say it carried hospital medicines, equipment, canned food, and bottled water. For the people in Gaza, especially displaced families, children, and patients in hospitals, this aid was seen as a lifeline. However, Israel intercepted the convoy at sea. Their official explanation was security concerns. According to Israeli authorities, they needed to ensure that nothing inside the convoy could be misused. Humanitarian groups, however, said the supplies were fully documented and transparent. They argue that the blockade only makes the crisis worse. It was at this point that Kim Jong Un made his strong statement. He said these ships were not for politics, they were for humanity. Stopping them goes against international law and basic human rights. The reaction around the world was immediate. African leaders, including officials from South Africa and Namibia, said stopping humanitarian aid is a violation of international norms. Some Middle Eastern countries also spoke out, saying aid must always be allowed to reach civilians. Within the European Union, debates began. Some lawmakers demanded Israel provide more transparency, while others emphasized the importance of humanitarian access. At the United Nations, delegates reminded the world that under the Geneva Conventions, aid to civilians in conflict zones is not optional, it is an obligation. But as often happens, global discussions move slowly while people on the ground continue to suffer. Kim Jong Un's statement was unusual because most of his speeches focus on politics or military issues. This time, however, he directly highlighted a humanitarian crisis. Whether you agree with his politics or not, his words force the world to pay attention. Now let's look at the most important part, the human side of this story. In Gaza, the humanitarian situation is extremely difficult. Hospitals are overcrowded. Doctors say they are running out of essential medicines, even basic antibiotics. Some hospitals report that they cannot provide proper treatment for cancer patients and those needing surgeries. Food shortages are another major challenge. Refugee camps are struggling to provide even one proper meal per day to families. Clean water and sanitation are also in short supply. The flotilla was carrying exactly these items: food, medicine, clean water, hygiene kits. For many families, it represented hope. But that hope was blocked in the middle of the sea. This is why Kim Jong Un's statement is being seen not just as political rhetoric, but as an expression of humanitarian concern. He said, humanity must stand above politics. If any country blocks aid meant for civilians, it is standing against humanity itself. So, what happens now? Will Israel remain firm on its decision? Or will international pressure force a change in policy, perhaps allowing humanitarian corridors or supervised aid deliveries? Analysts say Kim Jong Un's statement presents the world with a moral challenge. International politics often runs on alliances and interests. But humanitarian issues test whether countries can put human lives above political calculations. If aid continues to be blocked, the suffering of civilians in Gaza will increase. If the global community finds a way to guarantee safe passage for humanitarian supplies, It could set a new precedent, one where humanity is prioritized over politics. There is also a geopolitical dimension here. Some experts believe Kim Jong Un's statement may also be a strategic move, an attempt to present himself as a defender of humanitarian values. But regardless of motives, the fact remains, his words have started a serious global debate. This is not the first time such an event has happened. Back in 2010, the Freedom Flotilla incident took place, when another aid convoy was blocked on its way to Gaza. That too led to protests and international debates. Today, more than a decade later, we are still facing the same questions. Will aid reach those who need it most? And will the world treat humanitarian access as a universal principle? Friends, this story is not only about one convoy. It is about humanity itself. It is about hope for children, for mothers waiting for medicine, for families waiting for food and clean water. And it is also about the choices that world leaders and global organizations make when faced with such crises. So we ask you, should humanitarian aid always be above politics? Will international pressure succeed in ensuring supplies reach those in need? Or will political interests continue to block basic humanitarian assistance? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want us to continue bringing you neutral, authentic coverage of such important global issues, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel. Your single click can be a small but powerful step in supporting humanity.